The day I had dreamed of, since I was a little girl, turned into my worst nightmare. The white roses, the string quartet, the seaside venue in Brighton, everything was perfect until my mother arrived. I remember standing in front of the mirror, my wedding dress flowing around me like ocean foam, when she walked in with that familiar look of disapproval. "You look worthless in that dress," she whispered, just loud enough for my bridesmaids to hear. "James deserves better than you." Her words cut through me like shards of glass, but I forced a smile as my friends exchanged uncomfortable glances. 20 years of emotional abuse had trained me well to hide my pain. I met James 3 years ago at a charity fundraiser in London. I was volunteering, helping to organize the silent auction, when he approached me with a genuine smile that reached his kind brown eyes. "Excuse me, but could you help me figure out how this bidding system works?" he asked with a charming nervousness. I explained the process, and we ended up talking for hours after the event closed, walking along the Thames as the city lights sparkled on the water. With James, I felt seen for the first time, not judged, not found wanting. What James didn't know then was how broken I was inside. Growing up with a mother like mine had left invisible scars that no one could see. "Emily, you're such a disappointment," she would say casually over dinner. "Why can't you be more like your cousin Sarah?" My father, gentle but weak-willed, would stare at his plate, never defending me. When I brought home top marks from school, she would flip through my report card with disinterest. "Is this really the best you can do?" Even when I graduated with honors from university, she managed to make it about her. "At least I've done something right as a mother," she told her friends at my graduation party while I stood nearby, invisible as always. I never told James the full extent of my mother's cruelty. I would share snippets, little stories that I could laugh off. "My mum's just difficult," I'd say with a forced smile. "She has high standards." James would furrow his brow but never pushed. He came from a loving family, parents who celebrated his achievements and supported his dreams. His mother, Sarah, would send me birthday cards with heartfelt messages, and his father, Richard, would give me bear hugs whenever we visited. Their warmth was foreign to me, almost uncomfortable at first, like stepping into sunlight after living in darkness for too long. When James proposed during our holiday in the Lake District, kneeling beside Windermere as the sun set behind the hills, I said yes through tears of joy. That night, as he slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I deserved this happiness. The next morning, I called my mother to share the news. "Well, I suppose someone had to take you," she said after a long pause. "I hope you've thought this through, Emily. Marriage isn't for the faint-hearted, and you've always been so sensitive." I hung up and cried in the hotel bathroom, silent tears so James wouldn't hear. The wedding planning should have been joyful, but my mother turned it into a battlefield. She criticized every choice. The venue was pretentious, the flowers common, the menu, trying too hard to impress. James noticed my dwindling enthusiasm and held me one night as I finally broke down. "My love, what's wrong?" he asked, stroking my hair. I couldn't hold it back anymore. "It's my mother," I sobbed. "She's always been like this, but the wedding is making it worse. She makes me feel like I'm nothing." James looked shocked, then angry. "Emily, you are everything to me," he said firmly. "Your mother is wrong about you. She always has been." With James's support, I began therapy. Dr. Matthews helped me understand my mother's behavior was about her own insecurities, not my worth. "Your mother likely has narcissistic tendencies," she explained gently. "People like that cannot celebrate others because they're too consumed with their own inadequacies." Those sessions were painful but necessary, like lancing a wound to let the poison out. For the first time, I began to see my childhood clearly, not as a failure on my part, but as a young girl desperately trying to win love from someone incapable of giving it freely. As the wedding approached, my anxiety grew. Would my mother ruin the day I had waited for my entire life? James suggested we could elope, but I refused. "I won't let her take this from us," I said with newfound determination. I even considered not inviting her, but my father begged me to reconsider. "She's still your mother, Emily," he said, his voice tired. "And despite everything, she does love you in her way." I doubted that, but I relented for his sake. The morning of the wedding arrived with perfect weather, sunny but not too hot. with a gentle breeze coming off the English Channel. My bridesmaids surrounded me with champagne and laughter as we got ready in the suite overlooking the sea. For hours, I managed to forget my worries, swept up in the joy of the day. Then my mother arrived, an hour later than scheduled, wearing a dress far more elaborate than we had agreed upon. "Sorry I'm late," she announced, not sounding sorry at all. "The traffic was dreadful, and the GPS took me the wrong way. This venue is rather out of the way, isn't it?" I took a deep breath and smiled. "You look lovely, Mum," I said, meaning it despite everything. She was still beautiful at 62, her silver-streaked hair elegantly styled, her figure slim and poised. She barely acknowledged the compliment, instead scrutinizing the room, the dresses of my friends, my hair, my makeup. Then her eyes fell on my wedding dress, and her expression shifted from critical to something darker. "Is that the dress you chose?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. "It's rather simple, isn't it? I thought we agreed on something more sophisticated." We hadn't agreed on anything. She had sent me dozens of images of dresses she preferred, all of which I had politely declined. My dress was exactly what I wanted, an elegant A-line with delicate lace detailing, nothing ostentatious but undeniably beautiful. "I love my dress, Mum," I said quietly but firmly, Dr. Matthews's words echoing in my mind. "Set boundaries, stand your ground. And James will too." "James," she scoffed, pouring herself a glass of champagne. "He's settling, you know. A man like that could have anyone. I wonder how long it will last once the novelty wears off." My bridesmaids exchanged alarmed glances. My best friend Charlotte stepped forward, ready to intervene, but I shook my head slightly. This was my battle. "Mum," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "today is my wedding day. If you can't be supportive, perhaps you should wait downstairs with the other guests." Her eyes narrowed. "I'm just being honest, Emily. Someone needs to be. You've always lived in a fantasy world." She set down her glass and walked toward me, adjusting my veil with cold precision. "You look worthless in that dress," she whispered, just loud enough for everyone to hear. "James deserves better than you." The room fell silent. Charlotte gasped. Even my mother seemed surprised by her own cruelty, but she didn't take it back. Instead, she smoothed her dress and walked toward the door. "I'll see you at the ceremony," she said, as if she hadn't just shattered something precious. After she left, I stood frozen, unable to breathe. My friends rushed to comfort me, offering tissues, reassurances, even suggestions to bar her from the ceremony. But all I could think about was James. Wonderful, loving James. And whether deep down, my mother was right. Did he deserve better? Would he eventually realize it and leave? Charlotte held my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. "Emily, listen to me. Your mother is wrong. She has always been wrong about you. You are kind, brilliant, and deserving of love. James adores you. We all do. Don't let her poison your day." I nodded mechanically, but inside I was spiraling, years of therapy seemingly undone by a single sentence. As my friends helped fix my makeup, covering the evidence of tears, I made a decision. I needed to see James. Yes, it was bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the wedding, but I needed his strength now more than ever. I asked Charlotte to find him and bring him to the garden behind the venue where we could have privacy. Minutes later, I stood among the roses, my dress gathered carefully around me, when I heard his footsteps. "Emily?" His voice was concerned. "Charlotte said you needed me. What's wrong, love?" I turned, and the look on his face as he saw me in my wedding dress for the first time was one I'll never forget. Pure awe, love, and something like reverence. "Emily," he breathed, "you're breathtaking." The tears came then, unbidden. "My mother said I look worthless," I managed between sobs. "She said you deserve better than me." James's expression hardened, then softened as he stepped forward, careful not to touch my dress or makeup. "Your mother," he said gently, "is the most unhappy person I've ever met, and unhappy people try to make others unhappy too." He took my hands in his. "Emily Bennett, soon to be Emily Parker, you are the most valuable person in my life. You are worth everything to me." He wiped away a tear with his thumb. "Do you know what I see when I look at you? I see the woman who stayed up all night with my sister when she was going through her divorce. I see the woman who remembers the names of every barista at our local coffee shop. I see the woman who reads to blind children at the library every weekend. His voice grew stronger. I see strength, kindness, and a heart so big it's a miracle it fits in your chest. I laughed through my tears, and he smiled. There she is, he said softly. My Emily, don't let her take your joy today. This day belongs to us. In that moment, something shifted inside me. An understanding that had been building during months of therapy finally crystallized. My mother's cruelty wasn't a reflection of my worth. It was a reflection of her emptiness. For the first time, I felt truly sorry for her, living in a world where she couldn't recognize the beauty of connection, of love freely given and received. I said slowly, I need to talk to her before the ceremony. James looked concerned. Are you sure? You don't owe her anything, especially today. I'm sure, I said, feeling strangely calm. I need to do this for me, not for her. He kissed my forehead. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. Always. I found my mother alone in the venue's library, staring out the window at the sea. She didn't turn when I entered, though she must have heard me. Mum, I said quietly, we need to talk. She sighed dramatically before turning. About what, Emily? I've already apologized for being late. She hadn't, but that wasn't the point. No, Mum, about what you said upstairs, about me being worthless. She waved her hand dismissively. You're being oversensitive as usual. I was just giving my opinion on the dress. I took a deep breath. No, you weren't. You were trying to hurt me on my wedding day, and I want to know why. My voice was steady, my hands weren't shaking. The frightened girl, desperate for her mother's approval, was gone. In her place stood a woman who knew her own value. My mother looked startled, then defensive. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do, I continued. You've been undermining me my entire life. Nothing I do is ever good enough. No achievement is ever worthy of celebration. Why, Mum? What did I ever do to make you resent me so much? For a moment, something flashed in her eyes. Pain, perhaps, or recognition. But she quickly masked it with indignation. This is ridiculous. I've sacrificed everything for you. I've only ever wanted what's best. No, I interrupted, surprising us both. You've only ever wanted what makes you feel better about yourself. My happiness has never been your priority. She stared at me, mouth slightly open. I had never spoken to her this way before. The silence stretched between us, heavy with decades of unspoken truths. I want you at my wedding, I finally said. You're my mother, and despite everything, I love you. But if you can't be happy for me today, genuinely happy, then I need you to leave. You would ask your own mother to miss your wedding? She asked, incredulous. I would ask anyone who threatens my happiness today to leave, I replied. Even you. We looked at each other for a long moment. I waited for the guilt to come, the familiar need to apologize for standing up for myself. It didn't come. Instead, I felt lighter, as if I'd set down a burden I'd been carrying my entire life. Well, she said finally, her voice brittle. I suppose I've raised you to be stronger than I thought. Was that pride in her voice? I couldn't be sure. You did, I agreed. Despite everything, you did. I left her there, returning to my bridesmaids who were waiting anxiously. Is everything okay? Charlotte asked, scanning my face for signs of fresh tears. I smiled, genuinely this time. Everything is perfect. The ceremony was beautiful. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, my eyes fixed on James, waiting for me with that same look of awe he'd shown in the garden. My mother sat in the front row, her expression unreadable but subdued. As I reached the altar and took James's hands in mine, I felt completely present, undistracted by doubts or fears. We exchanged vows we had written ourselves. James promised to be my shelter and my adventure, to grow with me through all of life's seasons. I promised to be his partner and his home, to choose him every day with courage and joy. When he slipped the ring onto my finger, his hands were steady. When I placed his ring on his finger, mine were too. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the celebrant announced, and the cheers from our loved ones seemed to lift us up, carrying us back down the aisle on a wave of celebration. At the reception, as James and I shared our first dance, I caught sight of my mother sitting alone at her table, watching us. There was something different in her expression, something almost like longing. Later, as we moved among our guests, she approached us, glass of champagne in hand. Congratulations, she said, her voice softer than usual. She looked at James. Take care of her. James smiled politely. We'll take care of each other. She nodded, then turned to me. For a moment, I thought she might actually apologize, but she simply said, You make a beautiful bride, Emily. Coming from her, it was almost a declaration of love. Thank you, Mum, I replied, accepting the small offering for what it was. As she walked away, James squeezed my hand. You okay? I watched my mother rejoin my father, saw how he carefully placed his hand over hers, a gesture of support she probably didn't even notice. Yes, I said, turning back to my husband. I'm more than okay. That night, as James and I danced under the stars, surrounded by people who truly loved us, I realized something profound. My mother's inability to love me properly wasn't my burden to carry anymore. I could choose to be different, to love fully, to celebrate joyfully, to live wholeheartedly. In that moment, I silently thanked her for teaching me, through her failure, what kind of person I wanted to be. Years have passed since that day. James and I have built a life together filled with laughter, challenges, growth, and unwavering support. My relationship with my mother has improved slightly. Therapy helped me set boundaries, and time has softened some of her edges. She may never be the mother I needed as a child, but I've made peace with that. I've found maternal love in unexpected places, in James's mother who calls me daughter, in my mentor at work who champions my success, in the friends who stand by me through life's storms. Last week, I discovered I'm pregnant with our first child. As I shared the news with James, watching his face light up with pure joy, I made a silent promise to our baby. You will always know your worth. You will never question if you are enough. You will be loved completely, just as you are. Some wounds never fully heal, but they can transform us. My mother's words at my wedding, "You're worthless," no longer have power over me. Instead, they remind me of the day I finally understood my own value, the day I chose love over fear, the day I became free. So, what would you do if your mom told you, "You're worthless" at your wedding? I hope you would do what I did. Stand tall, speak your truth, and walk toward happiness anyway. Because no one, not even the person who gave you life, gets to decide what you're worth. That power belongs to you alone.